There we go.
Lovely. Let's drop into the tool now. Okay, so here we are with our thought for the day from the Bible, and it is this lovely verse from Ephesians. So let's look at it together. Speak the truth in love. And there's two elements to this verse which may have gone unnoticed before. But this is Support Challenge Matrix. This verse is the basis for Support Challenge Matrix. Speak the truth. Are we telling people the truth? If people ask us a question, if they want feedback, if we're feeling something, are we being authentic in our responses? Are we actually saying what needs to be said if it needs to be said? And are we doing it in a loving way? Are we doing that to ourselves? What's going on inside our own heads? What's coming out of our mouths with our teams, with our family? Is it supportive? Are we hearing encouraging words said of ourselves? Are we celebrating our wins, big and small? Are we speaking gently? Are we being authentic, like we were hearing from Carl before? Are we thinking through how we communicate with different people and what they might need, and also how we communicate with ourselves? This may have been the first time when you looked at the tools through the altitude sessions that you've thought about what happens in here. That what is that narrative inside your head like? What kinds of words and phrases are you hearing inside your head? So this is a hugely helpful tool for all manner of speech. So let's look at the tool then. And straight away, what we notice is this bright green liberate quadrant. And it's green not for the lovely nurturer voice, which you know from Insights. It's green for healthy. It's green for growth. Things grow, things flourish when you calibrate challenge with support, when you're making sure that there is enough stretch for people to reach for something, just like you'd have a bean pole to help a bean plant grow. It's that tallness of the bean pole that gives the plant some aspiration. So high challenge with high support creates a culture of empowerment and opportunity. People feel able to move themselves forward rather than reliant or dependent on someone else. But we all have a tendency, and every voice will tend to begin in either the protect quadrant or the dominate quadrant by nature. So the protect quadrant would be the voices. Usually, often they're the greens and the yellows, and those creative connectors as well, who tend to start in that sense of support. They find bringing support really easy, offering help, offering encouragement, celebrating others, praise, structure, scaffolding for things. But they can find it really, really hard to give people something where they might struggle. So that's called protect. And that creates, sadly, rather than growth and health, that creates a culture of entitlement and mistrust. People feel that they are entitled to that kind of support and sometimes that rescue as well, or that helicoptering whenever they find things a struggle. And if you think about what happens when a parent protects their child, overprotects their child, and doesn't provide enough challenge, it spoils the child. And when we spoil a child, we actually spoil life for that child because at some point they're going to discover that not everyone is going to offer them that kind of helicoptering and that protection. And they're going to have a rude awakening. And it's cruel to not prepare people for life. And it's the same with our teams as well. They'd much rather hear it from someone kind than from someone who's going to be hard with the truth. And that leads me to the dominate quadrant. Some voices, often by default and not always, the blues and the reds can sometimes by default want to help people to grow, want to give people stretch and challenge. And that's a good and worthy aspiration. But they don't always calibrate that with high support. Sometimes those challenges can feel too big, too great, too demanding. Deadlines aren't long enough. There's not enough check-in times. There's not enough support. So people can, instead of growing, can feel like they're ruled by fear and manipulation. They can feel like a threat hanging over them or fear of getting it wrong. And that's when we're not intentional with our support. So those are the two quadrants most people begin in by default. But when there are certain conditions, when there's stress, particularly when there's trauma or some personality types, you can find yourself in the place called abdicate. maybe if you've had a bad experience in one of the other quadrants as well, you can think, well, that's it. I'm not going to try anymore. That person, I've tried to help them grow. I've tried to help them to give them scaffolding and support. They're not coming back to me. They've reacted like this, so I'm just not going to bother. I'm just going to say, yeah, whatever. And I think Jeremy's brilliant on the videos about this. Yeah, send me an email, whatever. And there's not any of that input that people need to be able to flourish. And that creates low expectation and apathy. You think it might be nice to have a boss that's abdicating because you don't have anyone breathing down your neck or micromanaging, but actually you can't grow there. It's not a good place to be. So that's the support challenge matrix. And we will say a little bit more in a bit about what that actually means to be supportive, to be challenging. But I'd like you to think now to the preparation you've done by looking at the sessions. And you were asked to plot yourself in relation to your team, in relation to your family. And you might need to break that down into different family members and in relation to yourself. And it's okay if you find yourself in every quadrant with each of those three spheres of influence. That's completely fine. And you would have time to share all of it. But I think it'll be really helpful for you just to process with a buddy just now in a breakout room. Just pick one or two of those people. Where did you put yourself in regards to them and why? Any questions on the tool before we start to chat and process? Nope. Excellent. Right, let's bob into our breakout rooms and we'll see you very soon on the other side, hopefully with lots of great examples to share. Good. Thank you. So what have you got? So I'm interested in picking somebody, team, family, or yourself, and just taking us through which quadrant you're in for that and why you've put yourself there. So Alex, can you kick us off, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'll focus on I guess work. And what I find curious is that it's sort of a snapshot in time. If I think of where I'm on the kind of chart now, whereas I think I would have put myself on the chart, say maybe, 2, 3 years ago. And at the moment it really is between sort of protect and abdicate. And it wouldn't have been that way, say, 2 years ago. It would have been slightly more towards maybe protect and liberate or something like that. And it's interesting how one can get to a point where you feel almost like powerless. I don't know. It's a situation that you can't see a way through or around or out, or how do you make this better and stuff like that. And so you just tend to go, ugh.
Yes,
So
yes. Excellent. So you sort of track that journey from protect, liberate to protect, abdicate, because
yeah,
you've tried some stuff and felt like, what do I do now? Powerless was a word I heard you say there.
yeah.
Yes. Okay, that's difficult. So do you have any idea why you're there?
Yeah, I do. Um, I don't want to share too much here though, but yeah, there are certainly things that make it that way. And it's not for lack of trying. And I'm even today before this meeting, I had another meeting about trying to find ways through.
Great,
But it's interesting
great.
to see how it can change over
Yeah,
time.
it's excellent. So hold those thoughts of some of that idea, that intel you have on why you're there. And when we go back into the tool now, I'm going to I'm going to do a deeper dive and see if there's anything there you haven't tried yet. I love you bringing that positive energy to this, Alex. Open mindedness. That's great. Sarah, let's hear from you. Could you pick one thing and tell us why?
Yeah, so I put work, and I think at the moment I'm sort of smack bang in the middle. For me, when I asked a member of staff and my team, they said I was in the green section, which I was quite chuffed with,
Oh,
really. But I think
nice.
for me, my past 5 years of working culture here were very different. And I decided when I took on the manager role, I didn't want my staff to be in that 5 year culture that I was in. And I wanted to learn from it. And so I've tried to sort of empower my team a little bit more in what they do. And like I said to Richard, when I said to the boys a couple of weeks ago, you phone the engineer, and they look at me and said, you what? I said, you can phone them, not me, but we don't phone them. I said, no, you haven't in the past, but you are now. I said, I want you to do it. And I'm trying to empower them because I haven't been in that culture for 5 years. It was a bad culture. And I've learned. And I want my team to not like me. They don't, you know, one of them's my husband, but I don't manage my husband. All right. He's managed by Elaine. All right. But
Love it.
but the other two, but they are all on my team. But I believe in trying to empower them, and that's what I want to do. I don't want to be this dominant person and protecting them. It's about giving them wings to do things themselves for me, and I want that to work for them.
Love it. Great. So you've been able just to voice the journey you've been on and hopefully also just celebrate that progress and be thinking, okay, what else can I do to empower them is the
Yeah,
question. Love it, Sarah. Thank you. So fun. Let's go to Kate next.
Yeah, so for myself, I was sort of reflecting in the work setting, and I was sort of umming and ahhing between protect and liberate. I think sort of yeah, obviously in an ideal world and then on a good day, I'd like to say that I liberate and sort of yeah, try to be encouraging to people. But I think I have a tendency to sort of yeah, I think if I'm sort of taking a bit of a lead on a project, for example, I think I sort of set a standard of what I'd like. And then sort of, yeah, sometimes handing over the reins, I think I can get a bit like, oh, well, I would have done it slightly differently, for example. But I think, yeah, just I have actually had a few examples of the last few weeks in which sort of due to my workload, I've had to say, hello, can you do this task or do this piece for me? Which I think has been quite a good opportunity actually, just to sort of firstly, like I've then sort of created brief to sort of yeah, help the person working on it, but also just give myself a bit more chance to sort of realize when I can step away and obviously I do trust the other person at all. It's not a case that I don't trust them. I think it's just that perhaps like I have that vision in my mind. So just yeah, being aware of that is like a potential blind spot, really.
Excellent. Good. I'm sure lots of the team leaders on the call can relate to wanting something done the way you would do it. And there's nothing wrong with that if the way you do it is excellent and you're promoting excellence. But there may be some good hints and tips coming up now which can just help you to get the outcome that you would like to see more quickly. And that's what we're looking for. Richard, what have you got?
Uh, I I strong green energy, but not in a liberate way. And I live in the protect. That is high support. I don't need to think about it. I'm just going to be there. And we'll probably actually choose to do things rather than challenge someone to do things. So yeah, very, very in the workspace, very aware of that. And would actually, this has caused me to reflect a bit on, like, I don't have a team at the moment. I'm quite happy about that. I like not having a team. But some of that is because then I challenge myself, and I don't have to challenge others. And I know in line management that comes about. So yes, I will see. I'm interested to hear more about what you share, Laura, because I was saying to Sarah, I just don't know what it I know what it looks like with my kids. Like I didn't walk into their school classroom with them this morning. Like I gave them a big hug and said, "You're great. Now go." Like, in a dad world, that's high support, high challenge, you know. Um,
Yeah.
in the workplace, I don't know what it looks like. I have managers who self-describe as this. So they've obviously done some stuff with you, Laura, because they both told me, I got two. They both told me, we're high support, high challenge, and they are, but I don't know how they do it. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
excellent. Well,
yeah.
it's so brilliant to just get clear on the inquiry that you're bringing today. So, and I like a challenge. I'm challenged now to make sure you've got something you can take away and apply. Love it. Carl, we've got you next.
Hello.
Hello.
That was lovely from you, Sarah, by the way. I told you when Graham left you should have gone for the manager role because you'll be a great manager and it sounds like it's going well. So that's awesome to hear from you. For myself, if I were to plot kind of how I treat myself, it's probably more on the dominate side. I tend to be quite harsh on myself and set myself, too high of standards and goals and things like that. A bit like Alex says, I think the kind of matrix changes over time, or depending on what kind of season you're in, or whatever, But I think my line management style probably fluctuates between sort of protect and liberate as best as I can. I think with the overall culture here at Bible Society, it's very soft culture, which has a lot of its flaws, I think, and it's kind of get the impression that people know what they could get away with and how far things can be pushed and such. So it's difficult to try and find that balance and switch up your sort of line management style based on that. I think there have been times I've been quite dominating, depending on, how much people are kind of misbehaving and kind of taking the mick a little bit. But yeah, I think I want to try and see myself more in the steering more in the liberate kind of zone, and then switching to sort of not fear and manipulation, but just a little bit more sort of, come on, get it done. You've had enough time to get it done. Anywhere else in the world, there would be sort of consequences,
I hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's different. It's quite difficult and challenging, I think, to try and fluctuate at the right time, on the sort of graph,
Yeah, really good. Let's dive back into the tool, and I can just speak into that a little bit off the back of that card, because that was really helpful. Thank you. So what tends to happen is, in a lovely organization where people give lots of high support that Carl's describing, is we tend to sort of take on the protect quadrant role, and then we think, well, we do bring challenge, but actually what we're not doing is liberating. Instead, we're hanging out here, pitching our tent here, and every so often we dip down there, or at least that's how it's perceived. If we're in protect, as soon as we bring high challenge, that's when people feel dominated, because it comes out of the blue. They had no warning. They didn't think that they would be kept accountable on the deadline, because they haven't before, because we've let so many deadlines go before. And then suddenly we say, now hang on a minute, this is the 7th deadline you've missed. And they're like, what? You're keeping count? I had no idea. I thought it was fine to miss the deadline. Oh, you're being mean. Not being mean. I'm just asking for something that is completely reasonable to ask for. So that's also the problem with protect, and that's why it always leads to mistrust. If we don't experience that ourselves, we can mistrust a protect leader, because what happens is, when poor behavior isn't called out within the team, someone is suffering. Somebody within that team is having to move their deadline, move their goalposts, have to pick up the pieces. And they think, gosh, I can't trust this leader because they're not calling this person to account. And that's impacting me negatively. So that's what happens is, ironically, in this place, the sort of dominating characters or the apathetic characters can spring up much more easily. So how can we make sure that we are calibrating high support, high challenge, and what does it look like? How would we describe what those things are? So we're going to do a little deep dive on the support side here, so we can see what good support looks like. Good support involves training. Okay, so giving someone something to do without training them to do it can feel like domination. So good training, like you're doing now, hopefully, is supportive. So is resourcing. Do people have the resources they need, the budget they need, the materials they need to be able to get the job done? So thinking about, do they need perhaps a little bit more resource? Do they need someone to help with admin, for example, in order to do the job that they need? Investing time as well as support. I was on a call yesterday with somebody who is saying, my boss is, I coach the boss and I coach the manager. And she was saying, my boss is still cancelling our one-to-ones and it means so much to me. She's a yellow and she looks after the whole team. And I literally have to every so often just keep saying to the boss, look, you must hold to these one-to-ones, these weekly one-to-ones, otherwise you're going to lose the linchpin of the whole company. So investing time, sticking to it, giving opportunity for people feels supportive. especially when it has the scaffolding needed around it. And then finally, praise, recognition and appreciation, not waiting until something's perfect before we actually affirm what we see and celebrate the effort. We have a phrase in Giant, celebrate before you critique. And also, if we're an introvert, we do need to work really hard at projecting what we think into the external world. So you might think you've praised and celebrated and recognized and appreciated, but you probably haven't unless you are really intentional about it. So doing that verbally, especially if somebody's love language is words of affirmation, it's so important that they hear those kind words. So that's support. So perhaps just capture one of those things there that you would like to do more of. Is there one? I mean, if you're 5 out of 5 and absolutely acing it, great. But then again, maybe ask your team. So capture one that you'd like to just perhaps double down on or give more to. Okay. So let's now move on to the deep dive in the challenge aspect, which has been requested. And here's an aha for you. The best type of challenge is rarely critique. And that should help you to breathe a sigh of relief, because lots of you hate doing critique, don't you? You hate giving critical feedback. Even that word might send a shiver down your spine. We don't need to do critique too much if we have brought healthy versions of challenge ahead of time. We do sometimes need to critique, though, so it's not something to be avoided at all costs. So what does healthy challenge look like? Giving direct feedback, so telling people straight in a way that is kind, speaking the truth with love is healthy challenge. Promoting excellence is healthy challenge. Showing someone what excellent looks like. When I was a teacher for my A-level classes, every so often I would write a model essay and we'd go through it as a class. They get their highlighter pens out and annotate it. Or if somebody wrote a brilliant essay, we'd photocopy that. Let's look at this brilliant example of what excellent looks like. You may have a very good team. So we might be talking here about good to great, going from 85% to 100%. And that's worth doing. And it's worth doing in a way that doesn't actually crush people because they go, oh, I can never live up to 100%. But actually goes, no, look, we're here. Celebration, praise, but let's see how what we need to do to get even better. Pressure of deadlines. 50% of the population are really good at thinking through their plan and hitting the deadline before time because they feel they can't sleep otherwise. 50%, that's the J on the Myers-Briggs. 50% are P on the Myers-Briggs, and Ps do their best work in that last minute sprint before the deadline. So when you're kind or in the protect quadrant and you move the deadline or ignore the deadline, you're not actually helping that person at all because they can't bring their best work unless that deadline is held. There's this flurry of activity just before the deadline. So pressure of deadlines is a way of bringing healthy challenge to them. I think of it like the cocoon that the caterpillar gets into. The caterpillar gets into the cocoon and struggles to come out of the cocoon as a butterfly. And I heard this tragic story one time of somebody that saw the struggle of the caterpillar, could see it trying to peep out the top and could see it happen. It was going on for ages. And they thought, oh, that poor caterpillar, it's so much effort. It's not going to have any energy left when it comes out. I'm going to help it. I'm going to snip the top of the cocoon and help it out. Oh dear, guess what happened? That caterpillar never made it because it needed the struggle of the cocoon, that last minute to come out. I'm really sorry if I've just, made anyone feel emotional at that point. But it's tragic, isn't it? So we need to keep people with a deadline. It's kindness, even though it might not feel like it. Enforcing accountability. Now that's quite a strong word, enforcing, but it just means making sure that when we have a one-to-one with someone or in a team meeting and we set an expectation, that we then circle back, we make a note, we say, I'm going to ask you next week how it's going with that or where you are on that, and make sure that we do stick to the accountability. Or even asking our team to buddy up with one another to work on something together and to be accountable to one another and moving something forward if someone is struggling to do it on their own. That's another suggestion. Finally, and I love this phrase, stretch goals. Stretch goals. I used to do a stretching class, and the lady said to us, right, we're going to learn to do a headstand without the wall. We're going to learn to do a headstand on our own. And she said, don't worry, we're not going to get there this week, but over the course of the next 3 weeks, we're going to all be able to do a headstand. And from around the room, there were gasps of disbelief, but it actually was true. She stretched us. She got us doing all sorts of different activities in the session to get to the point where everybody could do a headstand without the wall within that 3-week period. And it was exciting. It felt exhilarating. There was energy around it. So are you giving your team goals that will stretch them and excite them and energize them? Okay, so when we do those two things, we are bringing high challenge, high support. So I'd like you to do the same thing with the challenge column. Is there one of those things that you could pick that you think you could actually double down on from here and try have a go at and give it a try? So which of the support or challenge columns do you need to focus on? Could be support with yourself if you're dominating yourself. It could be challenge with your team. So call it, I need to bring more of what? Well, for me, I recognize that I over challenge with James at home every so often when I'm not bringing myself enough support in my head, when I'm not giving myself enough support in my schedule, when I'm overworked, I don't have enough gas in the tank for the evening. So call it, I'm not bringing enough support to myself. Own it, I overschedule. I overschedule. Okay, then once we've known ourselves, we move to respond. Okay, how can I respond? I need to create more space in my schedule. Now, if I just leave it at that, nothing is going to change. It has to be exact. We have to ask ourselves, when? When am I going to do that? What's the execution? The execution was to immediately, straight after I realized this, go into my diary and my calendar and block off time. Just even if it's half an hour, just to have time to myself, free from trying to check emails or prep for my next call or my next session, and just having that time with the Lord, with myself, with a nice lunch and a cup of tea, with no distractions. So execute usually leads to me getting out my diary and making a change. Okay, so I'm going to stop the share and come back into the room. Any questions? Or is anyone still saying, I've got nothing to work with? Does everyone have something there that they can work with for their core process? Yeah? Please tell. I love being challenged. So if you still haven't, do tell me. Okay, brilliant, exciting. We're going to drop back into our breakouts now. I'd like you to share your core process. So thank you. Hey, Kate, why don't you tell us your core process, if you will?
Yeah, sure. So, I was with Claire, just finding opportunities to give more direct feedback, because I think, this is something that isn't, I'm happy to sort of congratulate people on what they're doing well, but in terms of areas for improvement, I do struggle a bit with that. We actually have just sort of brought in a system in which we give peer feedback more consistently throughout the year. So that's a good way anyway to sort of challenge me to do that. But I was just thinking about a particular project that I can give sort of editorial feedback on at the minute. So talking to Claire about that in terms of being a bit more confident to sort of offer areas to improve and hopefully sort of support writers and stuff on that.
Excellent. So getting really clear on exactly what you're going to do more of or less of. Would I be right in hearing you're going to give more room for improvement, more points for improvement to someone? Make yourself say what's going well, praise, but also saying what needs to improve. Going to be clearer on that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Good. So having a clear step and knowing when you're going to do that step is really important for that core process. So well done. Carl, how about you?
I think for me, it's probably finding a way to enforce accountability in more of um, a way that has real consequences, I think. But also, so for example, with the thing with deadlines, and you give the example of if deadlines that are just infinite and could be moved all the time, that does happen sometimes here. But it's kind of sticking to the original deadline and enforce accountability if it's going to be missed. But also, I think it helps when wins are celebrated a bit more, because in the world of tech, you kind of get one thing done, it's done, great, move on to the next, rinse and repeat constantly.
Yeah.
I think perhaps celebrating wins is I think would help things a lot of the time, and recognition when things have been done well,
Yes.
without sort of overdoing that as well, I think, because then that could become meaningless.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's striking the balance that works for everybody in the team, because everybody has different sort of characters, don't they?
So
And
good.
I
Yeah.
like being told when a job's been done, well done, but if it's
Yeah.
overdone, then it just becomes a bit of
Yeah.
a bit meaningless, doesn't it? So
Yeah, really good. I think the two go hand in hand, is what I'm hearing there, Carl, is when you are saying clearly what needs to improve, you
uh-huh.
can also say clearly what has been smashed out the park.
Yeah.
You can do both. And that's the calibration part. But when you feel like you're not being that clear on what needs to improve, it can dumb down the praise points as well.
Yeah.
So it's bringing them both up, turning both of them up, to use a technical analogy. Great. Sarah, what have you got?
So is this the core thing? Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah. What
So
specific
invest
thing are you
in
going to do
time.
differently?
So invest in
Great.
time. I'm going to try and invest more time with the team and learn. So there's a lot of things. I've got like a wealth of knowledge with the team, and I've got a lot of knowledge as well on because I've been here so long. But I think I can learn so much more from them as well. And I'm going to invest time with them. I'm going to delegate a bit of my work in a nice way to someone that's going to come and help me. I've got a new helper coming on board, and I've got to try and I'm saying to Richard, I'm a bit like, oh, is she going to do it how I want to do it? And it's like, no, Sarah, you're just going to go through everything and you're going to delegate it. You're not going to interfere until something happens, and you're going to encourage and that type of thing. That will then give me more time to invest with the team and learn from them on things. So, like this morning, we've had a power outage in the warehouse and we can't fix it. We've looked everywhere, and it's like, okay, I should have gone with Paul to have a look what he was looking at, but I didn't. I just left it to Paul. But that's easy and that's great. But I need to know what he's looking at as well for my own, as the manager, really.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
yeah.
Really good. So thinking carefully, what are the things that I, as the manager, need to be doing? And what are the things that I can delegate? So giving a bit of time to that, like you
Yeah.
said, that does save you time down the line, but it can be time consuming to
Yeah.
actually pass on things to people that they aren't used to having. If we move too quickly to liberate from protect,
Yeah.
it will feel like dominate to
Okay.
people. So we have to both set clearer new expectations of what's coming,
Yeah.
but we have to move more slowly than we think as well.
Okay.
So
That's great.
holding hands for a little while and then letting go might be a good investment in the
Okay.
interim.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you.
Well done, Sarah. That's great. Richard, what have you got?
Mine is around giving direct feedback and chatting to Sarah about this. I was actually, most things that come across my path are not rubbish. So, like, you have to think hard to make them better. And I don't often have the time. I used to mark essay, Laura, marking a bad essay was quick and easy. It was a pain because they were awful, but quick to spot the horrors. Marking a great essay is really hard to make it excellent because you're like, well, that's better than what I could do. So I need to give time to give good feedback, which means I need to schedule that in. So when someone asks for feedback, I need to honor that, and I'll give more direct and better feedback if I put in the required time to do that, because I'm a slow thinker as well. So yes, I'll give more feedback, but better and more direct feedback if I have more time to do it.
Brilliant. And actually, Sarah was talking about delegation there. That might be a helpful aspect here. Think about 70-30. If bringing feedback is draining for you, if it's in your 30, I've got you as a nurture creative connector, which means guardian detail. That blue energy is your fourth voice. And we call that our unconscious incompetence. It's the thing that actually we know we can do, but we don't realize how draining it is, or we don't realize how left-handed that is. So who do you have in your team who would love that challenge, who you could actually lean into them as the proofreader? Okay, you want feedback, great. This person here, Gordon, he loves giving feedback. I picked a name. I don't think there's anyone called Gordon at the at Bible Society. So he's going to do it. Now, Richard, if you've got blue energy in your top two, you love giving feedback. Honestly, it's your dream come true for someone to say, tell me how to make this thing better. Give me your critique on this. Wow. I love doing that. So think about who that might be a gift to as well. So teamwork. Alex, what have you got?
I think a little bit like Carl, because the two of us were chatting. It was about expectations, boundaries, being very clear about accountability. So it's about really putting that clarity back into the relationship about kind of where we both are, what we're both being on the same page, essentially, and that if things aren't working out in a negative way, being able to have that direct conversation and not just going, it's a bit awkward or a bit uncomfortable or whatever, and being just more intentional about being kind of more, clear about the accountability.
Excellent. That's so good. And scripting it in advance. I had to give some feedback recently that was a bit tricky, but I scripted it in advance to be able to really drill down on the good things and also the rooms for improvement, and it went really well. So you'll feel like $1 million if you do it. You really will. It will be growth for you too. Claire, anything to add?
Just a little quick one. One of my favourite little phrases is maximum growth occurs at the border of support and challenge. And just being really aware of those. Support is not doing something for someone, and challenge is not criticism.
Excellent. Thank you for those awesome summaries. Last thing to throw at you as we go is that on the platform, you have some help here. Have you noticed this button bottom right? If you click on the button bottom right and you click the 5 Voices AI tool, it says ask anything. You can ask, how do I give direct feedback to a connector, to a pioneer? So that's your friend right there. I actually used it. I used AI for the conversation I just mentioned, and it went really well. So that's your friend. Use that tool, play around with that for you to be able to give specific feedback to a specific personality type. Guys, great work today. Thank you so much. Stay on the call if you've got any questions. Otherwise, see you again next time. Next two sessions is your prep.
Brilliant. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thanks,
day.
everyone. Have a good day.
Enjoy your autumn walks.
Bye.
Bye.